let's talk about this, because this might be interesting. So I haven't read this yet. I'm still looking into this, but I wanna cover this a little bit, because this is apparently developing over the last couple days, and it's interesting. So Finland and Sweden could soon join NATO, prompted by Russian war in Ukraine. This is from CNN, so take that with a grain of salt. Finland and Sweden could soon join NATO, moves that would likely infuriate Moscow and that officials say would further underscore Russia's strategic error in invading Ukraine. NATO officials told CNN that discussions about Sweden and Finland joining the bloc have gotten extremely serious since Russia's invasion, and U.S. senior State Department officials said the matter came up in this week's NATO foreign ministerial, which was attended by foreign ministers from Stockholm and Helsinki. Officials said the discussions underline the extent to which Vladimir Putin's invasion has only served to reinvigorate and unify the NATO alliance, the exact opposite of Putin's stated goals before the war began. The Russian president had demanded that NATO cease expanding east and admitting new members, accusing the bloc of threatening Russia's security. Now, can we have this conversation about how NATO maybe should have done different things in the 1990s? Yes. Is NATO overall an arm of imperialism for the West? Yes. That said, Russia is also an imperialist state. Russia is also a shitty capitalist hellhole, hyper-capitalist, destitution-ridden state. Just like the United States in a lot of ways, right? So we need to understand, this is a battle of imperial powers, right? NATO, in and of itself, is an imperial alliance. Now, they classify themselves as a defensive alliance. Have they always acted in defensive nature? No. NATO can be criticized, and also that doesn't make Russia the good guys. A lot of people are going to see this, and they're going to say, oh, NATO's doing bad things, and they're making Russia, they're infuriating Russia, and that's expanding the war. In my opinion, now, again, we also need to understand, Putin personally said there would be like hell to pay or something if Finland and Sweden joined NATO. Like, this was like, I think the week that he invaded Ukraine, he said, again, when he was saying that he doesn't mind using nukes, he's threatening nuclear strikes on Ukraine, and he threatened nuclear strikes on Finland and Sweden. He said that they would be like, I forget the term or the words, but it was like, war that you've never seen before, right? If Finland and Sweden join NATO. So now here we are in a situation where they're calling Putin's bluff. Now, could you view that as escalatory? Maybe. But also, look at where Finland and Sweden are sitting. Ukraine didn't join NATO. Zelensky said that Ukraine wouldn't join NATO. NATO said that, it's up to Ukraine or whatever, and it's up to NATO. Should NATO, spokespeople have said Ukraine's not going to join from the get-go? Yes. But instead, they said it's possible, but also it's not going to happen anytime soon, and Russia invaded Ukraine anyway. So look at where Finland and Sweden are sitting, right? Russia's got a history of imperial aggression, right? Putin is doing this blood and soil, like, imperial speech bullshit. Look at where they're sitting. Ukraine didn't join NATO. Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, said that they wouldn't join NATO. And now they're getting fucking destroyed. There's a genocide going on in Ukraine at the hands of Russia's imperial forces. So if I'm in Finland and Sweden, and I'm skeptical of NATO in January 2022... and then another non-NATO country gets fucking destroyed for not joining NATO, I might be rethinking my position on whether or not I want to join NATO. I'm just saying, in my opinion, right, if all NATO countries agree to it, and if the country's people agree to it, the people, not the politicians in power, the people, right, if there's an overwhelming support from the democratic people of this country that they, as a whole, or a majority or a supermajority, want to join a military alliance like NATO, they have every right to do so. That's their country. They get to decide that. Now, can we criticize NATO over the last 30 years, 40 years? Sure. I think that's perfectly fine to criticize NATO, especially as the Soviet Union disbanded. That's fine. But guess what? We got NATO now. Russia, Vladimir Putin specifically, is fucking Looney Tunes. He's committing genocide in Ukraine. He's also committing a genocide of his own people in the sense that he's locking up tens of thousands and tens of thousands of people for protesting against the war. A lot of people in Russia are starving right now. There's significant police oppression in Russia right now. So, again, anyone trying to do this both sides garbage is a fucking fool. They're dumb. We need to have intelligent, rational understanding of what's going on here. Okay? Can we criticize NATO? Yes. Can we criticize Russia? Yes. Both things are allowed to be criticized. Also, once again, if I see what's going on in Ukraine and I live in Finland, you bet your fucking sweet bippy I'm going to join NATO. Significant shifts in public opinion. Now, once again, this is from CNN. Factor that into all of this. Public opinion in both countries about joining the defensive alliance has shifted significantly as Russia's war in Ukraine wages on, with one former Finnish prime minister telling CNN the move to join was pretty much a done deal on the 24th of February when Russia invaded. If you look at public opinion in Finland and Sweden and how their views have changed dramatically over the past 6 weeks, I think that it's another example of how this has been a strategic failure, one senior U.S. State Department official said this week. Now again, U.S. State Department official, but also look at what the people are saying. Look at the opinion polls. Now, if you want to present an argument that all the polls are fake and they're just doing this as a... You need to present that as evidence. I know a couple people in Finland. Some people in Finland that I've spoken to have said, I don't know much about NATO. I'm kind of ambivalent on it in January, in February, in March. And they're like, fuck yeah, I'm going to join NATO. People are going to react. You can't just say, oh, if you join NATO, I'm going to fucking nuke your whole country, bitch. And then not like, of course, and then if you don't invade them right away, of course they're going to want to fucking join NATO. No fucking shit. Is it scary? Are we escalating toward a world war? Yes. Is that horrifying? Yes. Is nuclear war fucking horrifying? Yes. But I can't fucking fault people in Finland for wanting to be able to get defensive, help from the rest of the NATO alliance, from the west of Europe, from the rest of fucking Europe, from the United States. If I can choose between Russia and the U.S. and I'm Finland, and Russia's got a history of wanting to destroy my fucking country, I'm going to choose the U.S. and NATO. Now, if they're the other way around, and NATO is an imperial aggressor and trying to destroy Finland, and Russia was like, oh, join our federation, and we'll fucking help you, then I'd want to do... But that's not the world we live in. So... Anyway, I just wanted to talk about this possibility of a Kremlin response. The Kremlin said Thursday it would have to rebalance the situation if Sweden and Finland were to join NATO. We'll have to make our western flank more sophisticated in terms of ensuring our security. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov told the Sky News, Finland was hit with 2 cyber attacks and an airspace violation by Russia's state-owned plane on Friday. Both Stub. I'm sorry, my dyslexia is acting up. When I drink a lot of coffee, it's hard to read words. And the Finnish official said Helsinki expects such types of attacks, and they downplayed the potential of a severe response from Moscow should Finland, which shares more than 800-mile border with Russia, join NATO. However, some NATO countries are looking at the possibility of Russia carrying out an attack before Finland falls under the protections of the alliance, according to a European official. So again, there's if they're set to join NATO by summer, Russia could theoretically invade right now. And they're not technically a part of NATO, so what is NATO going to do? We will be very live to the possibility that Russia may try to do something before they try to join the alliance. And the Finnish official acknowledged that they have to be prepared. If our country will decide to apply, or even if they don't, the situation is not safe or stable. We have a war. We have all kinds of possibilities. So you can read the rest of this if you'd like. But I just wanted to talk about this because, again, there's still so many stupid motherfuckers that really just, like, their reflexive posturing and branding is irrelevant. You saying, well, yeah, NATO's bad too. That doesn't help anyone in Ukraine. That doesn't help anyone starving from the food crisis that this war is going to, inflict all across the globe. That doesn't help anyone starving in Africa, the Middle East, especially in Yemen, from these food crises. So, you saying, yeah, NATO? I don't like NATO. That doesn't do anything. We're in a fucking war right now, and it's fucking horrifying. It's fucking horrifying. Is this shit scary? Yes. Are both sides able to be criticized? Yes. But guess what, motherfucker? One side is significantly fucking worse. And that's Putin. And that's Russia's military. If you think NATO is worse, I got a bridge to sell you. I just minted a new NFT collection. Would you like to get some? If anyone wants to tell me that they think both sides are equally bad, whatever this and that, that's downplaying this fucking garbage invasion that's going on in Ukraine. A lot of people are dying. Kids and children, which are the same thing. Kids and children are the same. I don't know why I said both of them as if they're different things, but are being murdered, raped, tortured. Thousands of civilians being murdered, raped, tortured. Now again, has NATO done problematic things? Absolutely. Should they be criticized? Absolutely. Should they have maybe not expanded after the Soviet Union fell? Sure, we can have that conversation. That is a separate, entirely conversation. That is a historical coulda, woulda, shoulda conversation, which I'm down to have. I love coulda, woulda, shoulda historical conversations. Those are fun as thought experiments, but that has no relation to what we are doing right now, what is going on right now, and people need to fucking understand that shit. So, I don't know, man. There you go. If I were in Finland, if I were in Sweden, and I saw what was going on, I might want to join NATO too. So if you're going to try to say that, don't you? If you're going to try to tell a Finnish person or Ukrainian, well, actually, you joining NATO is only going to... I mean, sure, go ahead and tell them that. And see how that lands you. Maybe don't do it in person because you might get punched in the face. But you cannot possibly blame someone for wanting... If there are two bullies, but one is a way bigger bully and specifically bullying them, you cannot blame them for wanting to go with the other bully. It's just that's how it is. I'm sorry. The world sucks. Your reflexive branding and posturing of like, both sides, that doesn't do anything. That doesn't change where we are. That's not intelligent analysis. If you want to say in a historical sense, coulda, woulda, shoulda, I'm right there with you. I have a lot of coulda, woulda, shouldas that we should have done this, that country would have done that. We can do that. We can play this like alternative history game. That's fun. I love doing that shit. I love alternative history. It's fun. But alternative history and commenting on real-time news events are different things entirely. And we need to be able... And yes, is it important to understand how we got here? Is it important to understand why NATO may have made mistakes? But also it's important to understand that Putin may have said NATO is a problem, but he also said things like, oh, these are our people. They're ethnic Russians. We're going in to save the ethnic Russians. Meanwhile, they're mass murdering ethnic Russians. Oh, we're going in to denazify the country. Meanwhile, Russia is literally advocating for Nazi-style oppression of their own people, jailing tens of thousands of people for saying we don't want war. So you need to understand, when you do a both sides criticism, when one side is significantly worse than the other, what you're doing is downplaying their crimes. I'm just sorry. I'm sick of this reflexive posturing that people are doing. It's ridiculous. It's silly. And I don't like it. So, there you go.